Okay, people, we are about to do something very exciting that I have never, ever done before. I'm a little bit nervous, not gonna lie. I'm making tempeh. I'm making tempeh for the first time ever. I have a bowl here of soybeans that have been soaking for about, I don't know, about 4-ish hours, going on 4.5 hours. That's honestly not the best angle. But yeah, tempeh. If you are not familiar with tempeh, Google it. It's a fermented soybean product, and it's very high in protein, and it's very good for you, and it's probiotic. And we're basically going to be using this that I bought off of Amazon, starter culture, to make tempeh. It's like a probiotic starter. So first things first, I've done step 1 already, which is to soak the soybeans. Now I need to hull them. So I need to remove all the outer skins from them, which after doing a bit of Googling, there's a few ways to do it. I'm gonna do the lazy approach by using my food processor here. And I'm gonna be using my dough blade, which is like the dullest blade. It's not sharp, it's just made of plastic, so that it won't break apart my soybeans and turn this into a smoothie. I want them to remain whole, or they'll probably break in half in the process, to be honest. But anyways, let's start it. let's figure this out, okay? Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm going to ladle a bunch of soybeans into the food processor. And we're gonna fill it up with some water. I'm not gonna do all of them at once. I'm gonna do like maybe half of them first. I'm gonna add just enough water until I reach the liquid fill level, which is right there. Now we just put a lid on it and we're gonna pulse it up for like, I don't know. Let's do like a minute first. Make sure they don't break apart on impact. Okay, so apparently what we're looking for are for like the hulls of the skins to have loosened up a bit, which that does appear to be a skin. And a lot of them should kind of be floating at the top, and wouldn't you know it, that is literally exactly what's happened. So that's good, that was successful. So now what I'm gonna do, according to Google, is I'm going to drain off that water there, and I'm gonna like rinse them out in a bowl, swish around the water a bit, and get rid of some of the skins. Okay, so plans changed a bit. Basically, I just agitated the water a bit, and I'm just gonna kind of scrape off from the top a whole bunch of the hulls, which appear to just be floating there conveniently right on top. I'm just gonna double check those. Those definitely just look like skin, so yay. Then I'm just gonna toss those in the compost and repeat. Don't want any of the soybeans getting tossed, so I'm gonna put those back in the water. Soybean, water. But I mean, damn, look at all those soybean skins. That food processor hack, like, really was quite something. Really did the job. Okay, so the second batch went way better. I pretty much have intact or just cut in half or split in half soybeans this time around. So I'm very happy about that. It took me honestly about 30 minutes to get rid of actually I didn't even get rid of all of them, but most of the soybean skins. You can see they're over here. There is a lot of them, like so much. But I think I did a really good job. You're never gonna get rid of all of them, but if you can get rid of most of them, I believe that's what you want when you're making tempeh, just so you can have like the best texture and flavor. I have my boiled, dried, and cooled soybeans in a bowl here. And now I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, as per the instructions tell me so. Now I'm just gonna give it all a really good mix. I'll be honest, I don't know why we have to add rice vinegar, but we do, and I'm just gonna follow the instructions because I'm a good girl. And now I have to add 1 packet of this tempeh starter. sprinkle over this here tempeh starter. Okay, now mixy mixy. Oh, and I also took a little, like a sewing pin, and I poked holes all throughout the bags, because you're supposed to do that. You need ventilation in the bags. Not a lot, just a little bit. So I poked a whole bunch of pinholes, and now I'm just going to measure out like a cup. And I'm gonna put like maybe 2 cups per bag, just so I know like my portions, I guess. I don't really know why I'm doing this, but just how I feel like rolling today. All right, moving on to the hurry up and wait part of making tempeh. I'm setting up my little kind of incubation station, which is actually just a seed starting kind of incubator with this little tray, and I have a heating mat underneath that I've turned on. I'm putting my tempeh right into the incubation tray, covering it with the dome, and I'm turning on the heat mat to let the tempeh come up to a warmer temperature, because you need warm temperatures to make your tempeh into tempeh, to help it ferment, basically. Okay, so it's about 48 hours since we started incubating the tempeh, and I have a few tips and tricks for you that I've learned along the way that I think will help you achieve the best batch of tempeh possible. Basically, some things for you to do and to not do. So getting started with that is to try your best to avoid as much condensation buildup as possible. It can be kind of tricky from my experience, but I think it is sometimes inevitable. But I think you can avoid it by, one, making sure that your soybeans are like bone dry before you mix the vinegar, mix the starter into them. If you don't let them dry out enough and then you seal them up into your Ziploc bags or containers, having more moisture in there is going to inevitably create a lot of condensation. And the reason you want to avoid condensation is because it could actually spoil your whole batch. It could lead to mushiness, it could lead to the spores kind of just getting all like kind of gross and slimy, and you don't want slime from what I have heard. So when I was incubating them, unfortunately I didn't capture any of this on film, but there was a lot of condensation buildup in the bag that I was incubating them in. So I did have to open the bag up once or twice and kind of wipe out the condensation from the inside with a paper towel. Wasn't a big deal. Having your temperature too high in your incubator can also lead to condensation. And I think for me, I had my heating mat on too high. I unfortunately can't control the temperature of my heating mat, but I did notice that after about the 12-hour mark, the temperature was a little bit too high by about a few degrees. You want to keep your tempeh in between I think the 85 to 91 degrees Fahrenheit temperature range after about the 12-ish hour mark. Your tempeh is going to generate its own heat just from the act of fermenting. So if you find that your temperature is above the 91 degree threshold, you can turn off your mat, you can kind of remove it a little bit farther away from your incubator, you can remove it completely from the incubator, and then just kind of monitor the temperature. And I personally recommend a meat thermometer just like this one. This is the meat thermometer I use. It has Celsius and it has Fahrenheit, so you can kind of see what your temperature is. I just kind of keep it stuck inside the tempeh at all times so that I can always get a reading on it to see what the temperature is. Also, make sure you poke enough holes in your bag because you really want to have that airflow. I only used a sewing needle, and I actually think that wasn't good enough. I feel like I should have used something that had a little bit more, a wider diameter, like a toothpick, or even just making a few little holes with a sharp knife. I feel like that would have been the better way to go. So that's what I ended up doing about at the 20-ish hour mark when I just noticed there was a lot of condensation. Also, keep your tempeh elevated. I think I made the mistake when I noticed that my tempeh was, I think, close to the 100 degree mark. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna ruin my tempeh. And so I immediately elevated it off of the bottom of the tray that it was sitting on, which ended up giving it better airflow underneath the bag instead of just having the airflow on top of the bag. Something else that you may notice when you're making tempeh is that you might start to see spores of black mold forming around any of the air holes that you poked into the bag. That is apparently totally normal and nothing to worry about. It's perfectly safe. I guess it's just a reaction of oxygen and the bacterial cultures kind of commingling and turning black, but apparently it's totally fine. But having some grayish discoloration and some little spots of black, apparently it's totally normal. Even actually in some store-bought varieties of tempeh, I have seen a little bit of grayish or black spots, and yeah, it's never something to worry about. Now, around the 24 to 30-ish hour mark, you should start to notice that like this white fuzzy stuff is starting to grow around your soybeans. That is the bacterial culture starting to ferment and basically turning into mold. It's good mold, it's healthy mold, it's all sorts of good bacteria and cultures that are eventually going to completely overtake the tempeh and turn it into like this white solid mass that's firm. Obviously, if you're familiar with tempeh, you'll know what I mean. It's very like solid, it doesn't crumble apart, it's like a brick, almost like holding a block of tofu. But basically the mycelium from the bacteria will completely infiltrate, get into all the nooks and crannies of the tempeh, and it will turn out looking something like this at the anywhere from the 36 to 48-ish hour mark. Could be a little bit longer. It's really like, you have to kind of look at it and see how it feels, see how it smells, and if it's thick and white and beautiful, then you're done. If you guys want to see one of my new favorite ways to enjoy tempeh, I have this totally banging tempeh teriyaki rice bowl recipe video hitting my channel very soon. It's potentially already up on my channel by the time you're watching this, so you can check it out right up here. It is so flippin' delicious. And if you guys like this video, make sure you subscribe below, give it a like, check out that recipe video, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah! Bye-bye.